All right, guys, we have some really good news about the Microsoft acquisition of Activision. You guys have been hearing about it for a while that they're supposed to purchase Activision, something like $80 billion, whatever the hell it was. It would have been the largest acquisition in not just video game history, but in all of history, if I'm not mistaken. It was going to be huge. And what it would have done is it would have made Call of Duty, namely, because Activision isn't really doing anything else right now. They have Crash Bandicoot and a couple other things, but Call of Duty is their bread and butter. It would have made Call of Duty an Xbox property, and it would have been owned by Microsoft. Well, the UK just blocked it from happening. The CMA, which is apparently the UK's regulatory body when it comes to acquisitions and stuff like that, CMA stands for Competition and Markets Authority. This is essentially going to kill the deal because if the UK is not on board, then it doesn't seem like it is actually going to go through. Regardless of what the United States decides, you need to have every country to approve this in order for it to actually happen, at least in every major market. Like if Swaziland or whatever country says we don't approve, then they're not going to like scrap the whole thing. But the UK is a big country. The European Union is another thing, but UK is not part of the European Union, so that won't have an effect on the UK's decision. And in the US, you have the FTC. So I am really happy that the UK has taken this position because Activision being owned by Microsoft having full control over the Call of Duty series would have been the death of Call of Duty. And look, Call of Duty is already on death's door. I'm not trying to say, oh, Call of Duty is so great now and Microsoft's gonna just ruin it. It's already ruined. But like when you think that it can't get any worse, it will be. And it absolutely will be if the Call of Duty series is under the Game Pass umbrella, because that's essentially what Microsoft's strategy is with all these games. Is to not have full-priced games. Like, I mean, they are charging $60, $70 for the games, but the main purpose is to have it on Game Pass. That's what they want to do with these games that they acquire and that they own and all that. Game Pass is all Microsoft cares about. The only reason why they wanted to buy Call of Duty was to make Game Pass more profitable and to get more people subscribed to Game Pass, because if all the Call of Duty games are on there, you know they're going to gain a lot of subscribers with that. But the problem is, and we're seeing it with Netflix and all these other streaming services with TV shows and movies, is that they can't, the subscription model can't support all of these projects individually. The whole point of a subscription and having all these shows and movies on there, for Netflix, for example, is that they want to gain subscribers for the service. But if they keep coming out with all these shows and they're not actually growing, then it's not sustainable for Netflix to keep putting money into all these shows and all these movies and all this stuff, because it's just not sustainable as opposed to a movie being released in a theater. That way it can be financially sustained on its own. So that's why you have a lot of these movies on Netflix that just suck, or even when you have good stuff on Netflix, you have these really good shows. For some reason, they only last like 3 seasons, 4 seasons, then they get abruptly canceled. More so than on cable networks, because at least the cable networks have the advertising. I know Netflix is adding advertising to their platform, and there are other ones that have it too, streaming services. But at the end of the day, when a project is not being supported on its own, like, you know, when you apply that to video games, what I mean is that if a game is part of a $10 a month or a $15 a month subscription service, it is not going to be as profitable. The game itself is not going to be as profitable as it would be if it was a standalone release, kind of like what we have with the movie theaters. So what I mean to say is that if Call of Duty was part of Game Pass, the quality of the games would have been much lower than they already are. And it's not just the opinion, it's the truth. It's a fact, actually, that yes, it would have been much worse for Call of Duty if it had been part of Game Pass. The old games being part of Game Pass would have been fine. Like if they added Black Ops 2 and a lot of the old games, they would have gotten a lot more players on those games, and that would have been cool. But as far as the new releases, because Microsoft has a thing where they put their games day one on Game Pass. If that happened for Call of Duty, it would have been the end of Call of Duty. We're already seeing it with Activision with these games, is that for some reason they don't have enough resources, enough incentive financially to provide a large amount of content for these games post-launch, like with Modern Warfare 2. I think they've only gotten, like 2 or 3 brand new maps. The rest of them have been remakes, recycled content from old games. It's, like, ridiculous, the small amount of content that Modern Warfare 2 has gotten 6 months after its release, and which would be fine if it was a regular game, but supposedly it's a live service. Most of the stuff's going to Warzone and DMZ and all this other crap, not the actual multiplayer. You know, you could say that Activision's spreading themselves too thin. That is true, but if just like we already have that problem now with the content just not being good enough and not getting enough of it, that if you add in this whole Game Pass thing, it would have been much, much worse. Trust me on that. Because when a game is part of a subscription model, if you only have to pay $10 a month to be able to play this game, the quality standards are much lower than they would be if you paid $70 for the game standalone. Microsoft does charge $70 for their game still, but most people, I would presume most people that play these games, are not buying them individually. They are paying only $10 a month. For a while, they were only paying $1 a month. Yeah, there's just not enough money coming in for that individual game. People are paying to play hundreds and hundreds of games. So the standard of quality is going to be so much lower, and they'll be able to get away with giving us a lot less of it. I could see them coming out with a new Call of Duty game, like assuming that Microsoft bought them, that launches day one on Game Pass, and then, you know, it only has like 5 maps or something like that, and it just has such little content, but you're only paying $10 a month for it. It's not like you're paying full price for it, so you shouldn't have your expectations to be as high. And I'm sorry, but I just don't think that's what's best for the Call of Duty series. I really don't. Like, people can say, you know, the memes, oh, Call of Duty's the same game every year and this and that. It really isn't, but, you know, people say that, and people are right to say that it's just not as good as it used to be. Well, it ain't going to get any better when you're only paying $10 a month for a subscription service that has a whole bunch of other games and not just COD. So it's just, no. Not going to work. Not sustainable. The $1 billion or whatever it is that Call of Duty generates in one weekend after launch, Game Pass is not going to make a fraction of that money just like in one weekend like it does when you release the game standalone. And you could be like, oh, but they're going to still release the games on PlayStation, Nintendo for 10 years. Yeah, but anyone who has an Xbox or a PC is going to play the game through Game Pass. And there's just not going to be as much money coming in as when they just release it for the $60, $70. So we should be celebrating, not being sad about the fact that Activision is not going to likely be purchased by Microsoft. Never mind all the fanboy stuff. Like, obviously, there are a lot of Sony fanboys that did not want this to happen because they were afraid of what it would mean for the future of Call of Duty on PlayStation. Never mind all that bullshit. Because, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have liked the fact of Call of Duty being exclusive to Xbox, but that has nothing to do with me being loyal to PlayStation or whatever, because I don't give a shit about the whole console wars. It's just that Microsoft has proven to us that they are incompetent as hell and they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Look at their flagship franchise, Halo. They are running Halo to the ground. They've been doing that for at least a decade. You trust them to turn the Call of Duty series around? Really? You guys really believe that? It's crazy. The same online FPS community, right? The same people that are saying this, that, yeah, Microsoft needs to buy Call of Duty because it's so terrible right now. If only Microsoft buys them and everything will be better, are the same people. They are literally the same YouTubers that I see that are also being like, yeah, Halo Infinite's one of the worst games and it has no content and it's terrible. Like, what? Like, you can't, like, put 2 and 2 together there? It's not, oh, 343, no, it's 343. Well, Microsoft's the ones that have 343 in charge. So they have proven that they can't manage the Halo series. Why do you think the Call of Duty series would be any different? And then the whole Game Pass thing is just the icing on the cake because we're not going to get quality content. We haven't had quality content ever since Game Pass was introduced by Microsoft. Name an amazing 10 out of 10 exclusive game from Microsoft since Game Pass came out, like 2017, 2018. You've had some mid games, you've had some fairly good games, but you haven't had excellent games from Xbox. You just haven't. And that's because of Game Pass. Game Pass is trash. I mean, look, if you guys want the Call of Duty series to be better, stop buying all the new games. Because if you just keep buying them, then they have no financial incentive to make any changes to what they're doing. You are the problem. Activision's not the problem. You are. So another company purchasing Call of Duty is not going to be the magic solution to the problems that COD has. No, you guys are the solution. So make a difference. Stop playing Modern Warfare 2 if you don't like it. Stop buying the new games if you don't like them. It's like, it's ridiculous. I know there are a lot of people that actually did stop playing Call of Duty. I know a lot of people that did. But there are also a lot of you that still do. And still complain. Year after year after year. If every single one of you that complained stopped buying the games, then we'd be in a lot of a different situation than we are right now. We would be. So, that's the solution here. That's what needs to be done. Not some big company absorbing another big company, and that's going to make everything better. No, it's not. But Microsoft in particular would definitely ruin COD more than anyone could possibly imagine. That's for sure. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below.